For well over a year and a half at this point, the Red Dragon Mammoth has been my go-to mouse of choice due to its larger size, which allows me to grip it more comfortably. Even though I've had my hands on many more mice for review since my initial purchase, no other mouse has impressed me enough for personal use. That is, until the ASUS ROG Spatha came along. Spatha, Sparta, Spatha, pronunciation aside, it is the most comfortable mouse that my banana hands have ever held. But before I go proclaiming outright victory for this peripheral, let's take a closer look at it. The Spatha is driven by an 8200 dpi laser sensor, which comes with 30 grams of tracking acceleration and a 1000 Hz polling rate in wireless mode and up to 2000 Hz in wired mode. For wired mode, ASUS includes a 2-meter long braided cable, and for wireless mode, there's a 1-meter long rubber cable to hook up to the wireless receiver. The mouse has 12 different programmable buttons, with the left and right click buttons utilizing Omron switches. ASUS includes extra Omron switches with the Spatha in case you prefer the D2F switch over the D2FC switch, with each providing variable levels of click resistance. Also included is a tool to help disassemble the Spatha's magnesium alloy body to be able to get at the switches to swap them out. Speaking of the chassis of the Spatha, it is the largest mouse that I have ever had my hands on. However, it's incredibly comfortable, at least for my personal taste. For someone with smaller hands, that might not be the case though. The left and right click buttons curve up on the edges, which helps to hold my fingers on the smooth surface. The ring finger rest helps with lifting the mouse whenever necessary, and the texture on the thumb rest grips well and feels pleasant. The 6 buttons on the left side of the mouse, set in the shape of the ROG logo, are mostly functional, if a bit hard to distinguish from one another. The centermost button was usually the most difficult for me to determine. Also, I typically used the bottom leftmost button to help grip the mouse as I lifted it off my mouse mat. The backward-forward buttons on the left side of the left click button were a new position for me, but were fairly easy to get used to after using the Spatha extensively. As far as using the mouse for gaming, my mediocre FPS abilities basically discern no apparent usability difference between the wired and wireless mode, with the mouse tracking as accurately as I would expect in either scenario. For users who take their gaming sessions a bit more seriously than I do, you'll likely notice the inherent difference. But also at the same time, I think you'd likely steer more towards a mouse that has an optical sensor over a laser one in the first place. For casual gamers, I think this mouse would suit your needs pretty perfectly. It's a bit hefty to constantly be lifting to readjust, with it weighing in at 178 grams, and there's also really no good place to grip the mouse to lift it seamlessly, which may be a pitfall if that's your typical playstyle. As far as battery life and charging is concerned, ASUS has made it incredibly easy to dock your mouse on the charging station, which doubles as the wireless receiver. Battery life is sufficient, with the battery lasting through several days of gaming sessions. However, with charging being as simple as it is, I simply placed the mouse on the dock most nights after I was finished at the computer. To program everything on the mouse, including the DPI, RGB LEDs, button functionality, and macros, you have to make use of the ASUS Armory software. The software is reasonably intuitive for setting the different options that you want, which include the ability to calibrate to the surface that you'll use the mouse on, as well as various power saving options. It's easy to screw up software design when a company focuses so much on hardware, but thankfully that isn't the case here. The Spatha, I think, encompasses everything that the ROG line of products from ASUS is about. Innovative product design with its wired/wireless mode, premium aesthetics, and world-class build quality. The only negative thing that I have to say about this mouse is that I still don't get why manufacturers think it's a good idea to put RGB LEDs on where your hand covers the mouse while in use, because you can't see them. But regardless of my pet peeves on RGB LEDs aside, the ROG Spatha is honestly the perfect mouse for me, if I could afford it. The $160 price point makes it over 5 times what I paid for my Red Dragon Mammoth. Is it worth it? That's honestly up to you. ASUS has done everything that they could to justify the price tag of the Spatha. The mouse is by no means undeserving of its hefty price point. And comparing it to the other high-end wired/wireless hybrid mouse on the market, the Logitech G900, which I also currently have for review, I would say that it's a toss-up between the two. Personally, I would choose the Spatha due to its larger size and more industrial look and feel. However, the G900 has several other things going for it, such as its ambidextrous design and optical sensor. I think that comparing these two mice, is not directly comparable because they suit different use cases and aren't a direct comparison in all regards. And with that conclusion, I'd like to thank ASUS South Africa for sending the ROG Spatha over for review. Now I just have to figure out a way that they can let me keep it. Like this video if you found it helpful at all. Dislike it if you disagree with me or my points of view. Leave a comment down below letting me know whether you'd ever spend $160 on a mouse. You can subscribe to stay up to date on all of my tech-related content, including a review on the G900 from Logitech, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Cheers.